Hey there, Fellowship family. Welcome to your one-stop shop for all things church life. I'm Mark Francis, once again, your host for today. And these last couple of weeks that we've had for our Fellowship Family podcast here, these episodes have been special, having people from out of town, out of the country visit us, where we've been able to see how we've gotten a chance to impact their lives and how they impact our lives and overflow into each other as a global church community. Well, throughout this entire focus of overflow, we've talked about how we can pour out God's love to people in our families, to people in our local church, and now we've heard the global church. We're going to turn a corner here and start having conversations about how we can overflow to people around us, our community, our neighbors. And I have a couple here with us who attend Fellowship Bible Church, who you've got some really cool stories and I want to hear about. This is Tim and Angie LeMay. How are you guys?
Good.
I'm good. Thank you.
Thanks for being here. You know, I know being in this room with the bright lights and a microphone is never easy.
No.
So we will make this very easy and comfortable. So feel free to talk freely. Okay.
Okay.
We want to hear about you guys.
Right.
So I before we started recording, I know we talked about how long have you been coming to Fellowship Bible Church? That's always a question that is unsure. Did you guys kind of solidify how long you've been coming to Fellowship Bible Church?
Yes.
So give us the story and the history behind you guys finding this home of Fellowship Bible Church.
Do you want me to do it?
Yeah.
Okay. We've been here 17 years.
Yeah.
We previously lived in this area when we first got married and moved away. And when we left the Winchester area, we said if we ever move back, we're going to that church.
Really?
Yes, to Fellowship Bible Church. And
So before you hadn't been attending.
Right.
You had your eyes on it and then you moved out. Where did you guys move to?
Lynchburg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So stayed in the state, just
Yes.
a little ways down the road. And
Yeah.
then what drew you back to town?
Tim's job.
Yeah.
And what do you do for work, Tim?
I'm an automotive technician.
Automotive technician.
Yes.
And you've had the same job since you guys moved back, or have you bounced around from place to place?
I've bounced around. I ran a shop over in Luray for about 5 years. And then I started working in Manassas for a year. And then I got recruited to go to work at CarMax.
Okay.
And I've been there for 17 years.
That's a great gig then, if you can
It
stay
is.
at one spot for 17 years.
Yeah. We moved from Luray to Stephen City.
Uh-huh.
And that's when we started going right when we got here. We started right from the get-go.
That's great.
Yeah.
So you do have a little bit of a commute to go back and forth to get to work. Talking about the struggles of traffic, I can appreciate that.
It was a struggle tonight.
Yeah, it's a struggle. Well, so Angie, tell me about yourself. You have a job, you have a
Yes.
career now as well, but through those 17 years, it's been a little different. What have you
Right.
been
When
doing?
we first moved here, I stayed home. We homeschooled our kids all the way through elementary and high school. And when our youngest, Drew, went to school, then I started working here at the church. I worked here 5 years for children's and youth. And then I've recently started working for Integrity Home Mortgage.
A lender in town?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
Well, we were very sad to see you leave Fellowship Bible Church.
Yes.
Yes.
It
I'm
was
sure
very
many miss you still. Just the administrative qualities that you have are amazing.
Thank
So the
you.
children's ministry isn't the same, but we've got good replacements behind
Absolutely.
you. So,
Absolutely.
But
Yes.
it takes, it's kind of, you've seen some of the inner workings of our church by working here. Tell me more about maybe how you guys have served together in the church as a couple. What have you guys done over the years here at Fellowship Bible Church?
When we first moved here, we got involved in children's ministry right away. We met Charlie and Sharon and fell in love with them. And our kids were in 4th grade and kindergarten. And our girls literally fell in love with Charlie and Sharon. They would consider them as second grandparents.
Yeah.
So we started serving in kindergarten, 1st and 2nd in the summers. And we did that for about probably 12 years. Yeah.
Wow. That's a lot.
Yeah.
I mean,
But it gave the Sunday school teachers during the school year a break.
yeah,
So
that's awesome.
yeah.
It was
And-
about 12 weeks of it, right?
Yeah.
And I
Every
know
summer.
recently there was a wedding that occurred.
Yes.
Tell
Yes.
us about that. How did that go? And not your wedding,
Right.
but one of your girls
Yes.
got married.
Ashley married Ben Sanford, who was an employee here.
Yeah.
They met a year ago here at church in Keystone. And
We've
hit
had
it
them
off.
on before. So yeah,
That's true.
You're getting a
Yeah.
chance to get this side of the
See
story.
what they felt like sitting here. Yeah. But they hit it off, and we love Ben.
Yep.
Yes.
That's a good thing.
Yes, we do. He's great.
But I only bring that up because you were talking about Pastor Charlie, and he was involved in the wedding.
Yes.
And I could tell the grandparent or parental kind of
Yes.
love that was going on there with Ashley, and how the stories of growing up. There's this whole generational component that
There is.
Fellowship Bible Church is now really realizing, being around for 40 plus years now.
Yes.
There is a component of kids have been raised in this church, and they are now becoming adults and are
Right.
adults and are
Right.
serving. I mean, look at Caleb Pearson. We'll call him out.
Absolutely.
Look
Yeah.
at McManical kids. There's
Yeah.
plenty of different families, and you guys are now one of those families where
Yes.
there's been discipleship happening
Yes.
in the home.
Absolutely.
So before we get to this concept of overflowing to the world around us, I really think that it makes sense to talk about the home, to talk about really the love for the Lord that you guys have, and how that overflowed into your children, and how then that works within the church before really it gets out of these walls. So give me your own personal story and testimony of how each of you came to know the Lord. I think that's an important component to this story.
You go ahead.
Tim, you get to go first.
I became a believer at the age of 20. I had a tough time of it before I got saved, but I once I became a believer, I was definitely committed and really wanted to follow God and try to unlearn a lot of the stuff that I had learned growing up.
Well, it doesn't happen overnight.
No,
Yeah.
it didn't for me.
Yeah.
It's
And
still happening.
Well, of course, and I think people, that's kind of a little misconception there, that people think, oh, you come to Jesus and all of a sudden instantly all of the
Oh, no.
all the past things just disappear. Doesn't happen.
They
So
didn't.
how did you come to know who God is and understand the gospel when you were 20? What influences were there at that time for you?
That's a good question. I was raised in church, and that had a big impact. But the biggest impact, when I look back, was Angie's dad. He had a teen Bible study that he ran in Fort Valley when I was in junior high. High school, junior, senior. And we would just go over there. And that was the first time, like, everything that he said was crystal clear. I understood it. I didn't believe it at the time. I didn't want to believe it at the time. But I knew that what he was saying was the truth. And I have told him he's my spiritual father.
That's cool.
Yeah. He was definitely instrumental in my salvation.
Yeah. So that goes to then, Angie, I got to look at you. And so you guys have known each other for a while.
Long time.
Right. We were 16 and 17 when we met.
When you met, and then
Yes.
how old were you guys when you got married?
22.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you knew each other for a good 4 or 5 years.
Yes.
As friends, growing up,
Really good friends.
dating together.
Very good.
So you had this guy over at your house every now and then for your dad to
Yeah.
influence him.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. To be on you. Yeah.
What did that look like from your perspective? How did you come to know the Lord?
I came to know the Lord at a very early age. I was almost 5. I was raised in a Christian home. My dad went to seminary and then became a pastor. And I remember my earliest memories in the evenings, of having Bible story time or family devotions, and then praying for people in our family that we weren't sure were believers, or neighbors or friends that weren't believers. I don't remember not knowing that. And I just remember coming home from Awana one Wednesday night. Like I said, I was almost 5 years old, and it just dawned on me as we were coming home from church that I needed to put my faith in Jesus. It wasn't something that I could just pray for someone else to do, that I needed to have Jesus as my personal Savior.
Making it personalized, even as a kid.
Yes, I was really
some
little.
Sort of light bulb moment where you realize, okay, that's not just a story. That's not just for other people. It's for me.
Absolutely.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So now you guys are married and you start having kids, and you're now pouring into the lives of girls. So from your perspective, what did that look like of your family and your household and how they came to know the Lord as kids growing up in your house?
Well, we raised them pretty much the way I grew up. We just lived, as much as we knew how, we just lived it out daily. You know, by the time they were 2, they could, sing Sunday school songs. They knew stories. Tim acted out Bible stories with them.
Oh, I need to see that.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
One of their favorite stories was, the 10 plagues. And Tim acted out every plague with them in the backyard. At 3, they knew every one. And so just making it fun and real at a very early age.
Yeah.
Do you remember when they kind of had that moment, their light bulb moment as girls?
Yes, they were probably in first grade, I think. Yeah.
And you say first grade because there's 2 of them.
There's two of them,
yes.
and it was at different times. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
They were here at the same time.
Yes.
Yep.
Right, but
just wanted to clarify.
Yes, but they believed at different times, but they were both. It was about the age of 5 or 6 years old. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, at an early age, and then our son Drew was probably later, about 7 or 8, but still young.
What just over the years has been the biggest impact in your lives being here at Fellowship Bible Church? What influences have shaped your growth to get you to this point of where you are today?
For me, it's been the approach that they take with the Scripture. It's the whole word, how it all interacts and interconnects, and it's not a piece here and a piece there. And it has totally changed the way I approach it and how I study it and understand it, how that it's all connected. And it has really helped me in understanding things better, and just it has cleared up some questions that I had.
Really digging into biblical exposition, and teaching. Yes.
Sitting under the teachers that we've had, like Mark and Don and
John Morrison.
Especially watching John Morrison, and I have watched him for years.
Yeah.
I've really come to appreciate him.
Yeah.
Bob Leonard.
Adult Learning Center.
A lot of opportunities in the adult learning centers.
Yeah. And for you, Angie, kind of what has God taught you over the years of being here?
I would say the same thing that Tim said, just digging into the word verse by verse, really understanding, what it says and how it is meant to impact our lives daily. One of the core values of the church is discipleship, and I know that's still very important to the elders and to the pastors here. But I do feel like that in every aspect of our life, and it has changed over the last 17 years, that we were discipled and that our family was discipled, that our children were discipled. Like you mentioned the wedding and the impact that Charlie has had on our kids. Yeah. He walked through many things with us when they were younger. And then the youth department, John Avery, and all 3 of our kids had youth leaders that met with them one-on-one all through high school and discipled them.
And they had good youth helpers. Yes.
And their personal leaders discipled them. Drew had a leader that met with him every week. Yeah. Bill Hutchinson.
Yep.
So you said Drew because you have a son also.
Yes, Drew.
Okay. Don't want to leave him out.
And Lauren and Ashley, their small group leader, met with them weekly, even after high school.
That's right, she did.
Yeah. So just to have people in the church that poured into our kids and into us, like you mentioned, Don and Patty, and Mark's teaching, and John Morrison's teaching, and Charlie and Sharon, and then people that we've served with, in community groups, and it takes a whole church.
Yeah. And thanks for sharing, because I think it's important for us watching and listening to you, kind of hearing your story. Everybody has their own personal story of their own growth, how they came to know the Lord. Being a part of our local church, I think, is important as well, because as you're doing that together with other people, there's a camaraderie and there's this family-like atmosphere. Even as the church grows, we can feel this sense of, okay, we're a part of something. And doing that then causes us to, I think, just have this natural, I'll use the word overflow, to say, okay, who else around us, needs to hear this good news? Who else around us can I help impact? And so tell the story as we hear kind of this reaching out of our own walls. When you first heard of this idea called Light Up the Night, that is something that has been around our church for a few years now. But I remember one of the first times that we first launched this thing, I'm like, that's a really cool and crazy idea. And so walk us through the idea that probably came from the local outreach ministry and Scott Santmeyer of this idea of taking Halloween and turning it into something that allows us to share the gospel to those around us. When you first heard of Light Up the Night, what did you think?
Go ahead.
It was hard for me to, it was hard at first to think that you could use Halloween as an outreach. I grew up trick-or-treating, and then my dad became a believer, and we stopped. And so when Scott came up with the idea, I was willing to do it, but I had reservations.
Because of what the holiday represents, because of just
what it can represent.
Yes. Yeah.
But we went forward with it. We started doing it when we lived at Lakeside, and the response was amazing.
So walk us through. I don't know how many years ago this was. Maybe you do or maybe you don't, but
at least, maybe more.
I feel like that it's been several years since, 10 or 12 years since we've been doing this kind of outreach. When you first did it, maybe as it grew and evolved from year to year to year, what happens at your house on Halloween? Paint a picture. I mean, we all know what trick-or-treating looks like, but when they came to your house, what did those kids and families experience?
We set it up differently. We decorate with pumpkins and a lot of like picnic.
It's like a fall festival.
Yeah, like a fall festival.
Okay.
We have a sign out front, but we have usually 4 or 5 different games. Every game, it's play a game, get a piece of candy. And it doesn't matter how many times you play.
Stick around, keep getting more candy.
You can go through the loop. We have pumpkin tic-tac-toe. We have pumpkin putt. We have a little basketball goal. Just easy games. The kids love it.
Yeah.
We light the perimeter of our driveway is lit up with hanging lights.
Okay.
And then I have 2 500-watt floodlights that are on poles. So we are literally.
So you're literally lighting up the night.
Yes.
Being the light in the dark
Absolutely.
community, the dark holiday.
Yes.
And I have a similar background with you. I mean, my parents did not let us trick or treat. There's the stigma in my mind is still that this is just something that you stay away from. I remember specifically my parents not letting us go to the door to not let us see the costumes of the other kids that were in the neighborhood. I mean, that's the level that I grew up in. So I understand the reservation of saying, how can I participate in that? But flipping it on its head, making it an experience and a destination for the neighborhood to say, I mean, we just experienced Halloween a couple weeks ago, and they're at my house, and they come and they go, and this model, this idea of bringing them to your house and almost not keeping them there hostage, but they're having fun. They're coming to your door. Yes. These are neighbors. These are friends of yours, kids that you might know. How do you then equate Christ and add that level of the gospel to just passing out candy?
Well, every year we added more and more to our Light Up the Night. We started out with candy and games, and then we started adding hot chocolate, hot cider, s'mores. We have a fire pit, so we added s'mores. Probably about 5 years ago, then we added hot dogs. And then the more we did, it drew people because they could not understand.
Why are you giving us this?
Why are you doing this?
Wow.
You know? And so we give the card out that shares the gospel. For those that don't know, on one side, it tells us how we are a lot like the inside of a pumpkin. We are a mess without God. And so it shares the plan of salvation on one side of the card that Scott produces. And the other side, we get to invite people to follow the star, which, we love follow the star.
Yes. We'll get to that in a little bit.
Yes. So it gives us an opportunity because they are so blown away by what, we're giving away and the atmosphere that they are willing to take these cards and willing to, for us to share with them.
That's cool.
And we, over the years, we've had people come back year after year after year, and now people just stay. They sit.
So it's turned into a party.
It has.
It's a party.
Yes.
And you keep upping the bar. If you get candy and then s'mores and hot dogs, and drinks, that's a whole night.
Yeah.
So what's one story that really stands out over the years of you doing this, where you've experienced just, wow, there was a moment where there's a breakthrough, or you found a neighbor in a conversation? What is there something that stood out?
For me, it was this year. People were very receptive, more than they've ever been. When I would ask them if they'd gotten one of our flyers yet, and 3 people asked me, said, "Are you one of the pastors at FBC?" I said, "No, no, I'm not." And a lot of them had been to Follow the Star, and they told me they were going again. They didn't even know we were going to have it because of COVID.
Yeah, right.
And then one lady said, I was thinking about going there to FBC, and asked me about it. But
I would say for me, it was when we moved 4 years ago and we left our old neighborhood. One of our neighbors on the cul-de-sac over was really sad to see us go. And he actually said, "Who's going to be the light in our neighborhood?" And you don't realize, I've heard Don say so many times, we won't know until we get to heaven,
right?
Whose lives we've impacted. So that meant, that was huge for us, for him to say, "Who's going to be the light when you leave?"
Yeah.
It almost kept us from moving. But I feel like we still have that same opportunity in our new neighborhood, especially this year. We had so many people. Tim gave 92, I think.
92 flyers.
Well, God knew that you had to move on to another neighborhood.
Right.
There's more people to impact.
Right. So, this year was a great year.
It was.
We had a great year.
It was very, I was really.
Yeah. And
great weather.
Yes.
So that plays a part in.
And we've
that
had people
also.
help us. So many people have helped us over the
We
years.
have
The
a group of
Babers
volunteers that we.
that help every year. The
Cool. So you're recruiting
and,
other FBC people to say, we'll host it.
Yes.
And come provide the candy and the s'more stuff.
Yes.
And
your only out is you have to have grandchildren that you are taking.
Oh, okay.
Then you can help us.
Then you can do it. Yeah.
Bronduin's aged out with grandbabies.
Yeah. Yes. They've helped. Yes.
They've always they
help every year.
Well, one of the primary purpose of this 3-month focus for our church called Overflow is to put the emphasis on the biblical passages of the one another's. And I'm hearing over and over this idea of being hospitable to one another is what you guys really sense out of doing Light Up the Night, is just showing love through hosting something for your neighborhood. In your own words, why do you do Light Up the Night?
I do it. I was telling Angie, it's to create an opportunity to give them the gospel in the form of a track, and to overcome any kind of hesitancy with them, and to also to invite them to follow the star, where they're going to hear it from start to finish. And I mean, everybody seems to be very guarded anymore. And this really helps take their guard down. We're genuine. You don't have to take the flyer, but...
And it's relationship building too.
It is.
I mean, you're hanging out at your house. You're throwing a big party.
Yes.
I mean, who doesn't want to be a part of that?
Right.
You can engage conversations with people that you know or don't even know, and they're your neighbors, and all for the purpose of
very disarming.
Yes.
presenting the gospel.
It is.
Yes.
Why would you say
I would
you
say,
do it?
yeah, the same. And just to see the look on their faces, and especially in the last 4 years, people have become more and more reserved, and to watch them walk up, very carefully, very guarded. And it's an opportunity for us to show love in a world where we don't see it very often anymore. And it's an outpouring of Christ's love, and it's because we love him, and therefore we love them.
Yeah.
And we want them to know that. And it's a small way to be able to show them that. And then you can visibly see the change in their face.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know you guys are humble. This is not about bragging about what you guys do, but I know from knowing you guys and hearing your heart and your stories of, how you came to know the Lord, to then your family and your kids, and then being a part of our church, and then saying, okay, this is just natural. How can we share God's love to people around us? And, it's being hospitable and showing love to others in the world around us, I think, is something we don't do enough of. I think it's something that we might say, oh, I can't do that, or this is too scary, kind of. Tim, you're like, I don't want to be a part of this Halloween thing.
We grew into it.
Yeah.
So it was
right.
We grew into it.
Right.
We accepted the challenge, and we just learned as we went.
So what would you say to somebody who's listening or watching that is, tipping over the edge of thinking, okay, I feel God pushing me in this direction to talk to my neighbor, or pushing me in this direction to just show love or be hospitable to somebody, but I haven't quite done it yet. What's that push over the edge to say, do it?
There are easy, Light Up the Night is an easy way that the church has given us an opportunity, with the idea of doing that. Follow the Star, inviting them to follow the Star, inviting them over after, if they come to follow the Star with you, and then inviting them back to your home for, dessert. I think that's a great opportunity. We've never been able to do that because we're here. But another great opportunity with Christmas coming up is just to make cookies, and you can get your kids involved and make cookies for all of your neighbors, and give them a Christmas tract,
and invite them to Christmas Eve service,
CDs,
yes.
or the church had put out before. And stuff
and I'll say this too, because it goes without being said, is that you can invite people to church, but there's also just the conversations that you can have on the doorstep of somebody might say, well, why are you doing this? I say, because I know God loves you. I mean, I'm just off the cuff just talking,
Absolutely,
but how can we use these everyday situations to engage the people that live near us, our neighbors, or anybody else, our coworkers, or if you're in school, or classmates, or whatever it might be. To how do we think strategically of, where's their relationship with God? Well, if they died today, where would they be going? And you don't want to get dark and grim with them, but
no,
there's that motivation right there that we all have, because
Absolutely.
we know what God has done for us, so we can share it to others. You've mentioned Follow the Star a couple times. So you guys do a lot in behind the scenes for Follow the Star. Just ballpark, tell us what that looks like for you guys over the last many years serving, because I know that's a big passion of yours also, because that is the biggest outreach event that our church puts on. Light Up the Night is something that's done in neighborhoods. This is something that's done church-wide, and you guys are part of that because of your passion for others as well. So what is your involvement with Follow the Star?
Mine is logistics.
Yes.
The putting up and the tearing down.
Oh, bless you, Tim.
And
Yes, I know. I've seen it, but trust me, I know the work that goes in behind the scenes. Yes.
I got started accidentally. We were coming to Follow the Star to see Ashley and Lauren and Drew in their roles, and one of the sets fell on Ashley because of the wind.
Oh.
And so I ended up going directly to her scene and stood there for the rest of the night and held up the...
No way.
Yes, the very first year.
Wow.
Yes.
That was the first year?
The very
that was
first
cold.
year. It was horrible.
freezing.
And
it
so
was
you
so
stood there
cold.
in the cold. Oh my goodness. and then you got recruited to be the logistics
Then
purpose.
they moved us to the actor's tent,
Hospitality tent.
Okay.
Yes.
and we just slowly migrated into other positions.
Yeah. Angie, what do you do?
I help Karen with the drama and just the logistics of the actual night. Just making sure things go the way they're supposed to go. And
Yeah.
the last 2 years, last year and this year here at the church, it's a lot easier. It's a lot warmer. But
2 years in a row, does it make it a tradition? I don't know. So
we'll have to
for
wait
those of
and
you guys
see.
that don't know, here's what's happening. December 4th and 5th on Saturday and Sunday, Follow Star is happening at Fellowship Bible Church,
Right.
not Kernstown Battlefield. We have not missed a step. We didn't miss a year because of COVID. People can stay in their own cars. They drive through. It's a driving experience where they'll have narrations in their car that we will give them. There's QR codes. You can queue it up in your phone or even a CD if you need that. Drive through, see the scenes, hear the stories. And this year there's actually going to be cookies
Yes.
that it's at the end that will
Yes.
be handed out.
The cookies are back.
So that's exciting. So that's a nugget of what's happening. And what you guys have been doing is you start and use Light Up the Night to invite people
Yes.
to go there. So if you missed that, that's okay.
Right.
There's still opportunities to go to the lobby at Fellowship Bible Church, grab invitation cards, grab signs, invite your neighbors, invite your friends, because this is the gospel on display.
Absolutely.
And what I think maybe you guys said that you haven't been able to do, elaborate, because you're serving, you're volunteering, but to go through the experience, especially this year, being in the car. And we talked about this on the Sermon Spotlight this past week with Scott Santmeyer. How it's challenging to have follow-up happen because there's not a big tent. There's not this big fun hoopla of music and cookies and where we can have conversations. That's going to happen in people's homes. That's going to happen at coffee shops. That's going to happen through invitations. So I know that you guys would like to do that, but elaborate a little bit about what you think people could do. You mentioned just a little bit of those things, but what ideas can you throw out there to people of how they can engage after the fact?
I would definitely say to ask neighbors, especially the neighbors in your cul-de-sacs or on your street, but really make a point of inviting your neighbors to Follow the Star. And if you have minivans, pile in a van together,
all
come
hop in together, right?
Yes. Yep.
That's a great idea.
Absolutely.
Don't just stay in one. I mean,
No, yeah.
don't take multiple cars.
Right. And try to go together and then go out for dinner afterwards or come back to your house for a Christmas party.
Sure. Throw a
And
Christmas party.
yes,
I love it.
and
See, you're
absolutely
full of ideas.
Yes.
I love it.
And Scott is a great resource for questions, even to ask people. If you don't know how to start that conversation, just to ask people,
What's your favorite scene?
why did you like it? Or, there's all kinds.
What did you learn?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Throw up all kinds of questions.
Yes.
Yep.
But to me, I think your neighbors are the best way
That's
to do
the
it.
theme of our conversation, it sounds like. Our
Yes.
neighbors,
Yeah.
building relationships with people that live near us that you see week in, week out. Maybe they're cutting their grass, or maybe they're walking a dog, or maybe they've got the kids at the bus stop. You see them, engage them.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, there's one other thing I wanted just to highlight, and we talked about this as a church last week or two. Tomorrow, Saturday, November 13th, we're calling the whole church to go bless a neighbor. believe it or not, I mean, why not? We're engaged in this series of the sermons. We are talking about how can we overflow to the world around us. Just find one quick little easy opportunity that you can bless a neighbor. It might be cookies like you've talked about. Might be, I don't know, raking leaves or helping them poopy scoop their yard with their dogs or something. You name it. I mean, how can we bless a neighbor? And then they might just say, well, what is happening? Why are you doing this? There's your in. There's your in. And how cool is it that if several hundred people from Fellowship Bible Church around the community are doing that all at the same time, the same day, it's not noticed. Doesn't have to be noticed. Right. But go bless a neighbor, guys. So put that on your calendar. Knock it out. Yeah. Well, thank you guys for being here. Tim and Angie, it was great to hear your story and encouraging, just encouraging to say, and motivating to say, I can do that. Doesn't take a rocket science to pull it off. No. It just takes an auto mechanic.
That's right.
To get it done. Right. Well, for all of you guys listening and watching at home, continue to share your thoughts and ideas. Write in any of the things that you have been doing as well. We want to hear from you. And by the way, it does take certain people to help pull off these episodes in this podcast. And if you are interested in helping behind the scenes, we would love to have you get plugged in. Whether it be editing or doing sound stuff, there's all kinds of fun things that you can do here at the church. But for podcasts, we need help. So let us know if you want to do that. So thanks for watching and listening. And until we chat again, let's let Christ be the focus of your life each and every day.